This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
So I would have asked you this because when I was in the ghetto, I know MLK 50 Memphis making this big ado about it supposedly. And I guess the theme is, where do we go from here? If we're asking that question 50 years after the fact, are we crazy? So what's wrong? I mean, what's your take on that?
It never got answered.
It never got answered. Yeah.
Look at it this way. Let's take another what if.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm was militant, but it was again like King in terms of a religious context.
Mm-hmm.
You got H. Rap Brown, who was more overtly violent, at least in terms of his advocacy for taking power. You got Stokely Carmichael, the sum of the few. You have Angela Davis, who was trying to tell the sisters how to behave well because her father was around when she grew up. She liked men.
Mm-hmm.
I knew some of these people. And the excuse at the time was, you'll have to be nonviolent because otherwise they would kill you. But King's dead. Edgar Evers is dead.
Mm-hmm.
You see. So what did they stave off? What would have been the case if they had said, stand up for yourself?
Mm.
You see. There is no way in my makeup anybody is going to be beating on me. I'm not going to let that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is going to die.
It's not going to be you.
I won't be the only one.
Uh-huh.
I will take somebody to Valhalla with me.
Mm.
Now, in the scheme of things, in the long run, they actually contribute more toward what's necessary than those who are peaceful. Take the movie Black Panther that they've got. They've also got another series they're putting on TV called Black Lightning.
Black Lightning? Is it like a race car series, or what is that?
No, it's about an action adventure hero, a super person type. He's black. It's a black costume with a yellow and looks like gray bolt of lightning.
And who's like universe he's part of? Is Marvel, DC, or something?
I don't know. You know, I find they're interesting because they talk about manhood. I was all the Star Wars fan until this last one, and then I just bailed on it. This last one is useless. It is a feminist fantasy. All of the people in charge of the bright side of the force are women, senior women, and all the men that are on that side act like ill-behaved, reckless, foolhardy boys. The masculine type are all on the dark side of the force. They've got a young girl who has no Jedi training, but she could best Darth Vader's well-trained son, Sith Lord, grandson, and best Luke Skywalker in a duel, you know. See, she has miraculous powers where we don't know where they come from. She's the strongest Jedi ever. And, you know, that's just a feminine fantasy. They've got one brother in there who's supposed to be the black hero that this super Jedi woman likes. He's got some kind of abilities that aren't explained himself, but interestingly enough, when he's on a mission and they have to escape from a tense situation, he's not the one riding the animal with the woman clinging to him as they go take off at breakneck speed to escape. He's clinging to the woman, talking about, slow down, oh, I'm scared. You know, like, good gracious. It was embarrassing. I saw that thing and I said, you know, forget it. They just corrupted the whole thing. They tried to turn it into a feminist fantasy of women in charge, superwoman. That's going to get another woman's behind beat someplace by some kid watching this stuff and not getting the right idea that this is a feminine fantasy.
I mean, isn't that the same thing with Wonder Woman, though? I mean, these ideas they're putting out there, like...
Wonder Woman's a pervert. I think Gal Gadot is a beautiful woman. She certainly looks drop-dead gorgeous. And she's got an interesting physical allure. She's sexy as all get out, but in the movie, she's a lesbian. That once in her long life has gone the other way with a man. And she's an Amazon lesbian who is into dominance, torture, and restraint. And in real life, the model for the person that invented her, who is the same person that came up with the polygraph test, he and his freak wife had a live-in girlfriend for years, and she was a dominatrix and used to tie them up and beat them with whips and chain them and blindfold them and stuff apples in their mouths, you know, as they were forced into submission.
You know, there's a movie that came out that talks about the history of Wonder Woman. It's called Professor Marston and His Wonder Woman. It came out late last year. And I found out the inspiration, like you said, the Matrix, or whoever the mistress who lived in with them, she was the niece of Margaret Sanger, of all people. She's the niece of Margaret Sanger. Her name was, I think, Olivia Byrne or something like that. But her aunt was Margaret Sanger.
Reaction, S&M.
This is crazy, man. You can't make this stuff up. I started looking at the movie. I haven't finished it yet, but it's like it's very fascinating. But it talks about Professor Marston and his Wonder Woman thing and his lie detector test. It talks about that too, the polygraph test.
Yeah, see, the way the series started off was in 1940. World War II had just started. The Wonder Woman and her Amazon lover had a stealth invisible airplane, and they would fly this thing into Germany. And the two of them would seduce the wives of Nazi generals to get intelligence to bring back to the Allies. And then in Korea, they had her seducing the wives of sinister communist front men, you see. So it's a little sneaky thing to sneak this ideation in on the youth. You teach them about something that is extremely rare, that they want you to believe is extremely common. And you teach this in California, starting in the 3rd grade, to kids who have no idea what sex is, but you teach them about homosexuality before they learn what heterosexuality is. And you see little boys 9, 10 years old walking around in an elementary school holding hands. Like, why are you doing that? Well, they showed us these movies that said it was okay. They've even got an animation that they show where this kid says, my big brother likes to dress up like a girl. likes to dress up like a girl and go to nightclubs and dance. He likes to fool boys into thinking he's a girl. He has fun. That'll get somebody killed.
Mm. So they conditioning these kids. That's programming.
Yeah, third grade, 8 years old.
So my problem is like Hitler's youth in a way. I mean, you're programming young people.
Same methodology.
Yeah, I mean, but people are like one is different from the other. It's like that's insane. I mean, like the parents. I mean, are they aware? They have the sound consent.
Yeah, a lot of them are very upset. They send these pamphlets home with the kids saying, "Never ever try to reinforce your child's apparent sexuality by saying act like a man. He may not choose to be a man." Or act like a lady. She may not wish to be a woman or a lady. Let them make their own choices. No, that's not how humanity works. You condition kids. Kids are pretty awful until they get trained.
I got an actual opinion. I mean, you talk about programming and looking at videos. There's a show on Netflix called Master of None, and it features a Indian American comedian named and I guess Aziz Ansari, and it's an interesting show. Have you heard of that show, Master of None?
No,
but it's one episode he did. Oh yeah, but I got to tell you about this one episode. I got to get your take on it. It was one episode that was featured because one of his best friends is a black lesbian, and so it was an episode that featured her. Every year they hang out for Thanksgiving over her folks' house. Her mom will cook a big dinner for the family, which is all black females. There's no black male present whatsoever. The only man of color is the Indian American guy. So it took her several Thanksgivings to come out to her folks that she was a lesbian. So I mean, I'm thinking to myself, so she got a family of nothing but black women. She got a grandma, she got her mama, she got an auntie, and she got this Indian guy. There's no black males present. And even in his show, it's a good show. I like it. It's entertaining. But there is no strong black American hetero male in that show.
Well, yeah, that's what they do. And then one of the more popular children's shows is called Doc McStuffins.
Okay.
Some white lesbians created the show. They write it, produce it, and direct it. And it's a kid who's about 6 or 7, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
She's a girl, and she's got a brother who's like 4 or 5, and he's a little unruly brat.
Okay.
So the mother is a black female physician, and she's got all of these high-powered white female physician friends, and she's got a little drone of a disgusting thing at home, her would-be husband, who's a house husband.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Is he black? Is he black, Judge?
Yeah, he's black.
Okay.
And they draw her. It's an animated thing, so she's got a big old butt.
Michelle Obama, huh?
Fishy as he can be. Mm-hmm. And he walks around with a frilly apron on, and he just loves to cook so his wife can pursue her career without having to worry about what happens at home. Mm-hmm. So it's just a sick fantasy. That's not the way life is supposed to be. I personally have zero respect for that kind of situation. I think they had one movie that somebody talked me into seeing one time. What is it? Meet the Fockers?
Yeah, that's the sequel to Meet the Parents. Yeah.
Yeah, and I found that one of the most disgusting things I had seen in a while, and quite frankly, I didn't see much of the movie because it was in a place where they served wine, so I just went to the lobby and drank a little wine and ate popcorn and snuck into another movie. I couldn't stand watching it.
What got to you? Like, what would bother you about the whole movie?
Well, just the whole doggone thing. Mama, or the boy's mother, is a sex therapist, and Daddy is a stupid little witch of a drone, and he facilitates her having sex professionally with all of their clients / patients who need help. And then they got the super macho daddy of his girlfriend who comes in. He's an ex-CIA man, and he just can't stand it. You know, I get the point, but, you know, it was just like disgusting. It's like, my God, I want to puke.
And what was the name of the other show, the cartoon show you talked about?
It's called Doc McStuffins. They play it all day long.
And on what channel? Like, what can people look at this?
Whatever the cartoon thing is, whatever your cable or direct TV setup is.
Now, you know, and it's interesting. Like, you know, what I found fascinating, people don't understand, is that you got some of these rappers. A lot of these rappers, they won't let their kids listen to their best songs, their most popular songs. Their children are not allowed to listen to rap music.
I know some of them.
Yeah, then you got the Silicon Valley executives. They don't let their kids use technology. They don't let them use tech.
Yeah, I know some of them, and I agree with what their points are wholeheartedly.
But isn't it strange that a lot of us out here allow our children to be raised by this social media and by this technology without us having any clue that they're looking at shows like Dr. Miss Stuffix, whatever, and this other mess. Miss Stuffins.
See what happens? She has a magic necklace, and all of the little stuffed animals that the kids have come to life around her.
Bestiality. That's another thing. They promoting bestiality too. I mean, that movie Shape of Water. Have you seen that movie, The Shape of Water?
Nope.
It got all the Oscar nominations. They promoting bestiality.
I don't listen to that stuff. The last time I paid any slight attention to it is they had one, what was it, Moulin Rouge, which was one of the most boring, dull.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman.
I had ever had the displeasure of sitting through half hour of.
Mm-hmm.
My wife at the time wanted to go see, and even she said, I got to go. I can't take this. They can't sing. They can't dance, and the acting's horrible.
Wow. I know that's the one that's
a big to do out of it.
Right.
The one that just was absolutely ridiculous when James Cameron, who came up with the Titanic, who came up with Avatar, was up for Best Picture of the Year. And instead of giving it to Avatar, which is still the all-time highest box office draw in motion picture history, they gave it to a ridiculous failed movie, war movie that was a bad one, called Hurt Locker, done by guess who? His ex-wife, who had become a lesbian. So they were rewarding her.
Oh, wow. So she made the Hollywood a little occult thing. I mean, I think there's some truth to that stuff now, man.
Yeah, it is. I mean, see, what used to happen with Oscars and stuff is back up until the end of the 60s, very early parts of the 70s, they had all of these movie house chains, and the chains were affiliated with studios. So the studios had a cast of stars that acted in all of their movies. So you had 2 new movies that showed every Sunday, and then 2 more new movies that showed every Thursday. So you had 2 or 3 cartoons and a little variety news feature or newsreel somewhere in the middle. So that meant that you basically had a studio that's having to come up with 150, 200 some odd movies a year. And television was driving them out of the ballpark when it got to be color TV. So they started going broke, and the gay crowd took over the motion picture industry. They got their money back by making these what we call blaxploitation movies, and that pushed sick fantasies. And then they had another thing where instead of you walking in whenever you walked in for your 50 cents, 75 cents, seeing the remainder of that movie and all of the next one, and then sitting through the parts you missed, you had to come in at the beginning or not at all. They charged you 3 times the admissions cost, and you got one movie. Now, I remember there was one, they had Fred the Hammer Williams,
Oh yeah,
football player.
oh yeah.
And a lot of other people told me this movie stood out in their minds. And what it was is he was a drug dealer, but they made him the hero. And the villain was another drug dealer. So in the final end of it, he has a shootout with his boys against the rival gang in the warehouse district in Long Beach. And there are a whole bunch of dead folk laying around. And he struts off smoking a cigar and rich. And LAPD doesn't even arrive on the scene. Like everybody's going, where are the police? You know this would not happen.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, they started glorifying that thing about the wrong kind of thing becomes glorified, and people started getting the wrong ideation. And then 1970, what would it be? Late 71, early 72, you got Rod O'Neal and Superfly spreading around the country. So now everybody wanted their hair fried, driving a pimp mobile, selling cocaine, because that was what looked flashy.
Mm-hmm.
And you had this black power, power to the people, dashikis, and all of the rest of it going on is a fad, but nobody was really listening. They were just trying to be down with style. And then as soon as it went to something else, oh man, I got to move me some of this cocaine, man. No, folks, you don't want to go that way.
Wow.
It is what it is. See, it really started messing stuff up.
But even like when you say that, I'm thinking about the movie Colors. I didn't know anything about no Bloods and Crips and stuff or LA gang culture until the movie Colors came out, which was produced by Hollywood.
Well, yeah. See, what happened is up until 1965, August to be precise, when they had the Watch Riot, or we called it the Uprising, you had Gangster Disciples traveling. You had Gangster Disciples, you had Del Vikings, businessmen, De La Soul, Bobtown, Slaussons, and so on. And there was a lot of killing. Then they had the rising in August 65, and all of that tension got out, and there was almost zero crime in the black community for the next 2 years. Then Tricky Dick Nixon got his butt in there, and everybody lost hope. And you got Ron Karinga with the US organization stooging for the FBI and LAPD and getting a whole lot of good people killed. And, I won't deal with Kwanzaa because of that. He started it in 1966. Down there in Lamert Park on Crenshaw, so he could get black people assembled and listen to them talk and inform to LAPD. He's a sick man. I saw him the first time on a field trip to LA City College. He had long, wavy hair, and he had gray-green eyes, and he had a Jamaican accent. We must take charge of our situation so we can run the student government. It was student body president out at LA City College.
Oh.
And then he becomes not Ron Everett, but Ron Karinga, and then D Mile out of Ron Karinga. So instead of having a Jamaican accent, shaved his head, wore dark shades all the time so you couldn't see the color of his eyes. And he started talking about, brother, there's much that the black man needs to know. Howsoever, you don't need to trouble your head because I, my ladder, will teach you. My ladder, teach on that. Oh, hell no.
He once been a hell of an actor, man. He should have won a Lifetime Achievement Award. I mean, be able to do a Jamaican accent for a whole year.
He tortured some women because he was paranoid. He thought they were trying to poison him. So he wound up doing a year in the state penitentiary. He got out, and within a month and a half, they made him a tenured professor at the state college system, in the state college system.
I mean, so what does it say about us that a lot of people are not aware of the origins of Kwanzaa or its founder, his character.
He's a slime ball, Ron Karenga.
But can you separate?
He was a first-class informant, the LAPD and the FBI.
But is it possible to separate the man from the vision of Kwanzaa? Is it bigger than him?
He was an egomaniac, and that was something he set up to try and deal with having an access to information sources in the black community. The whole thing was so people would come together and talk, and he could find out what was going on and have his boys take shorthand notes at all these meetings and report it to LAPD or to the FBI.
So you ever had a chance to look at any of Gil Noble stuff like it is? You know what I'm talking about? That
I was there.
He interviewed a guy who worked out in L.A. That helped build that theater, that pro-black theater that burnt down. But he was an FBI agent or informant or whatever. And he talks about working with the Panthers and, they torturing people and killing folks and a lot of things. But he said the reason why he came out was let people know you could be mad at me, but I'm not the problem. You got to look at the system that produces people like me. What does it say about the system if they produce and utilize people like me?
No, I don't buy that. You don't have to go do that. Mm-hmm. They had a term in World War II was called being a quisling. In other words, you were a secret Nazi, so you helped them take over your country.
Mm.
That was in Scandinavia, quisling.
Let me ask you this. Have you heard anything? I know you go, there's a lot of deep state stuff out there. You talk about Obama's origins. Have you ever heard anybody saying that Hitler was a Rothschild? Have you ever heard that theory?
Hillary?
No, Hitler. Adolf Hitler was a Rothschild. Was a British agent. He was a Rothschild.
I've not heard that. What his immediate documented history is his father changed his name and adopted the name Hitler.
Right.
It had been Schicklgruber, and Hitler's father was illegitimate, and Hitler's grandfather, one of them, was apparently Jewish.
His
grandmother knocked up out of wedlock.
Yeah, because she was
some big problems with that.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It relates to she was a housemaid for some prominent Jewish financiers, and they trying to allege that one of them was a Rothschild. That his ancestry is part of the Rothschild family, the Jewish banker down.
No, he wasn't that high up on the totem pole. It was just low down, ordinary level. He just had his little problems. He has apparently, you can see it on American History Channel and the Military Channel. Lots of historical work coming out now. Stuff he tried to suppress. He had a long, let's say, the equivalent of a rap sheet for homosexual prostitution.
Yeah, I heard about that too. But what about, let me ask you this. Have you heard about Clinton being a Rockefeller? Bill Clinton. Yeah, because they had a governor.
I went down one time and took some people. We went over and took a look at where he grew up in a trailer park, and it was interesting. It was some good old boys from East Tennessee, some judges who were there for this thing, and they remarked that they saw why so many white people couldn't stand Bill Clinton, is if he made it out of this place and became president, nobody's got an excuse. What we saw was there was a three-way fist fight between three drunks, and it wasn't two against one. It was one on one, and they didn't even know what they were fighting about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, wow.
Okay, but people, I heard this. The reason why I said this might be.
I know that's a lot of urban legend and all that stuff, but no, that's trying to glorify his situation. It was just ordinary, poor white daddy was a drunk situation.
But now they said his biological died before he was born. Though they said his biological father died in some type of weird accident. Somehow he suffocated in the mud or something, not to get him thrown. I'm saying, like, you had a Rockefeller who was actual governor of Arkansas, Winthrop Rockefeller.
Well, I doubt seriously.
And like his mom past is questionable too. Like, who was she exactly? Because I talked to other people as well. But I'm saying is he had a track, right? You know, he was able to meet with President Kennedy at the White House. He became a Rhodes Scholar, and you know, I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know, but people, I heard. You know, you hear things now. Things are coming out.
Young brother, that's an urban legend. They're trying to make him look good. No, he didn't have that kind of background.
Okay, well, I mean, it's a lot of stuff. It's something to be. I'm looking at now. What I think is interesting in this time is that, you know, we talk about fake news and stuff like that, but they're telling us a lot of information that might be true, but people can't discern it. Like you said, so much stuff going on with the breads and circuses, and so much sensationalism. But I think in a way they're actually putting out truth as well. But because people are so preoccupied with the wrong stuff, as you say, we don't really know how to discern, or we don't really know how to understand how to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
That's it.
And they're not teaching it in schools.
No.
So we fucked. I mean, we screwed though, right?
They do not teach critical thinking.
So we screwed then. I mean, like, okay, 10 years ago we talked about the bailout. You had the American people said they told. I mean, I remember Steve Cohen talking about it. They told their elected officials, "Oh, they don't work for us though. They work for Goldman Sachs." So, but they told them to punish the banks. They were told by their constituents, supposed constituents, that you should punish these people because regular folks get punished every day.
The architect of half of that mess, including the bundled mortgages and all of that, was Geithner,
Obama's Secretary of
Treasury Secretary, and Geithner stands out in my mind as miscarriage of justice.
And a Goldman Sachs guy. Yeah.
Well, here's what happened. Well, they got Wesley Snipes, and he got 3 years in a federal penitentiary for failure to file a complete set of income tax returns, even though he overpaid his taxes that were due for the period by $250,000. I was there and testified in his sentencing hearing. He got 3 years, but now Geithner entered a plea of guilty to tax fraud amounting to several $1 million, and he got a $42,000 fine. See the difference? And the bailout bill, chief consultant for Goldman Sachs, Geithner, drafted the only major piece of legislation to come out of the Obama administration, and that was a ripoff for Goldman Sachs. And Michelle and Barack worked for a firm that represented Goldman Sachs, and Goldman Sachs was also stepdaddy's financier for his business as an oil baron, and also for his trust fund that Barack is a beneficiary of. He went to school as Barry Soetoro. He's rich boy with no identification with us.
And really, like, I have not been paying attention to him at all since he left office in terms of what he's got to say. Because my problem with people is you should do and say the things that matter when you have the power.
Yeah, and he did that. When you look at his voting record as a U.S. Senator, for the 2.5 years he was in, these right-wing cranks, the Heritage Foundation, gave him their third highest rating in the U.S. Senate for conservative voting. It was essentially a three-way tie for first place.
And you know what's sad? I'm not going to lie to you. When you say that, I was thinking about 10 years ago, almost. I was looking at PBS when they had a special before the election that talked about the background of Barack Obama. And there was a black woman on there. I ain't going to never forget her because she was crying. Because she served with Obama on the Harvard Law Review. And she said, we were so disappointed at how he acted. We thought he was going to be for us and all this. He's so conservative. And I mean, I was thinking about, she was crying though, Judge. She was crying on her interview.
Well, look, He grew up in one of the 10 richest households on the planet Earth. Now, what do you think?
But they don't talk. They don't push that though. It's like you got to dig in the internet to find stuff like this. You got to go deep into the internet, maybe the darknet.
That's the fraud. He is in the back pocket of Goldman Sachs because they financed his trust fund and British Petroleum. You know, and the Bushes and the Sotoros, that's his family, were long-term family friends. Just get a load of that.
So would it be safe to say that Obama is actually a CIA asset?
Well, let's put it this way. His grandmama, who was the bank vice president, it turns out she was in charge of distributing the CIA funds in the Southwest Pacific.
Wow.
His mama worked for a CIA front organization, which is where she met his real daddy, who had a fellowship from a CIA front to build up friendships with Kenyan intellectuals. And grandmama introduced her to Lolo Sotoro after Barack was born, and she took up with him, married him, and Lolo Sotoro adopted Barack Obama, who went to school as Barry Sotoro. Now, as a fact, I know somebody that was a student with him at that high school in Hawaii, and I almost sent my son to that thing until I found out what it cost. And 2000, let's see, the tuition, not including room and board, I think was $95,000 a year.
Wow.
And when Obama went there, Barry Sotoro, is a classmate, boasted to me that the tuition without room and board was $45,000 a year.
Wow. They had like Barack Obama was struggling, trying to find his identity and place in the world. He was struggling with a single mother.
No, single mom was married to one of the 10 or 15 richest men on earth. Yeah, great.
But they like, where is that in the narrative? Like, I mean, come on, in the out there. Why do black folks don't know about this?
It's fiction because they don't care. It's like you take that pedophile, Michelle Jackson, a.k.a. Michael Jackson, who did himself in.
Okay.
And they have some kind of documentary movie out on him, and they had him at 7 or 8 theater stages at various theaters, like Paradiso here or out on the West Coast at various shows. And you got all of these black mothers with their little boys dressed up like sissies trying to look like Michael Jackson. Look like Michelle.
So really, it is like the mother is the first teacher of the child.
No, it's not money.
No, I'm talking the mother. I said mother. The mother
imagery. It's imagery. In other words, shallow, incompetent black mothers put the wrong idea in their sons' heads.
Yeah, I was saying the mother is the teacher, the first teacher of the child.
Yeah, well, look at it this way. The Spartan mothers used to tell their sons classically, either come back with your shield or on it. Now, do you hear that from black mothers?
But you know,
it's from some gang foolishness because they got a gang affiliation.
Well, you know, you said Spartan mothers. I was thinking about that Tiger Mom thing. It came out several years ago, the Tiger Mom phenomenon. Like the one, you know about Tiger Moms, right? Or the Tiger Mom thing.
I've heard something vaguely about it, but
it was an Asian American woman.
Fad.
Yeah, but it's just, I guess what it is, like they thought it was too strict on the child. Like I guess a Tiger Mom was a person who was a taskmaster to make sure that they did their homework or they practiced their instruments. So is that needed? That type of approach needed for children in general? Do they need a lot of structure like that? Would you?
Well, it's always good to give kids a structure, a framework, so that they can develop appropriately. I'll tell you probably the one thing that has always sickened me, and I think there needs some changes for international competition in gymnastics, particularly in swimming. Nobody should be allowed to compete in the Olympics who is not 18 years of age. There are too many sick mothers who just ruin the childhoods of their girls, not so much boys, but generally girls, by putting them in some rigorous athletics starting when they were 4, 5, 3 years old, and they had no childhood because they're trying to deal with mama's fantasy of the daughter being a star, a gymnast or something. So you got little 12, 14-year-old girls who need to be learning to be little girls and good students, good citizens, and not spending most of their time trying to get primed for Olympic level competition. I think that's an abomination. That's just my personal view.
You know, I mean, you hear about all like momagers and parents involving pee-wee football. They going overboard with it, you know, go to extremes.
Well, soccer moms.
Soccer moms.
Okay, what is this Maurice Rose Fields out here on Forest Irene just past 385?
I know what you're talking about.
Go out there, they've got a whole bunch of soccer fields. And you will see Latino men out there playing soccer, grown men. And other than that, you've got 7, 8, 9 fields out there, and all of them are little girls. You know, I used to ski, and I lived in Aspen, and I'd go to the Aspen ski school. And I remember when I had 23 posters up there along the walls about teaching kids to ski, and they only had one boy in one of those 23 posters. I had a ranch at one time, and I can ride, but I always noticed that, you know, there was no riding clothing for boys. There was no riding instruction for boys. It was all girl, girl, girl. You know, and I remember one thing tickled me. As old cowboy, he'd been riding range. That was his business for years. And this young girl, about 14, was trying to tell him how to ride a horse. And he said, "Young woman, so you need to close your mouth." He said, "I've been doing this for 60-some years as a business. If there is anything about getting a horse from point A to point B and getting it to do what you want to do along the way, and you know more about it than I do, it ain't happening. So just go on about your little snot-nosed business and let cowboys ride like cowboys ride. You go on and be dainty and prissy and make like you getting ballet lessons."
Wow. Wow.
That old buddy is fundamentally true. When you think soccer, you don't usually think boys, do you? You think bunch of little girls going around prancing around.
And why it's not very popular here in America. I mean, even though it's the world's #1 sport in America, we don't
pay any attention to it. You got swimming, and it's all about the girls doing that. You have riding, that's girls. You've got skiing, that's girls. You know, like, good gracious.
I mean, it's like, I can't look at women's basketball. I'm not, you know, I'm just being honest about it.
I refuse. It's like, and most of them put some makeup on, get your hair done.
I mean, it's not exciting to me. I know people got their opinion, but I would rather look at guys play basketball.
Well, yeah, let me give you something that I do like. I like watching indoor girls volleyball.
Okay, I can see. Yeah, that's nice. What's your reason for watching? Why you like it?
They're sexy. They wear makeup. They have their hair done. They got little brief bikini half thong bottoms. They look sexy. And then you look at the girls basketball players, and they've got these knee shorts. They're dressed like the guys, and considering so many of the guys have nothing but mama at home and where they wear their hair, it's kind of hard to tell the girls from the boys looking at them from the rear. With the women's basketball, it just leaves me cold. Like, no. And then there was an article I stumbled on. Some girl played football at an East LA City college, so she got a scholarship to play football, playing defensive back. Now, that is a waste. They don't need girls playing varsity football. He'll get hurt, and the guys are supposed to lighten up on them, but you're not supposed to, if you know what I mean.
Right. I don't understand. I mean, we're not equal. Women are not made the same way as men. And I know people want to push this equality. It goes back even when I worked at FedEx, and we call it the plantation or the hub. And the women will work with us, but a lot of times the women try to get us to lift the heavy boxes. But we getting the same pay. Well, I got to lift your box as well as my box. Yet we getting the same pay. That don't make any sense. We're not doing the same level of work.
These feminists over the last 50 years have tried to get women to ideate that being a mother is somehow wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't nothing personal. It's just that the female of the human species has been playing that mother role for a very, very long time, and guys don't do it. They shouldn't be doing it. But you get this thing of, you have to be more. Being a mother somehow or another is supposedly something unimportant. And meanwhile, keep your fingers crossed that they will hurry up with cloning so you won't need a guy.
Mm-hmm.
That something's wrong with that picture. But other places in the world don't have that outlook. But it's a good way to get yourself on a road to decadence.
Mm. And I got to ask you about have you been keeping up with football? Have you check out the NFL?
Nope.
Yeah, I mean,
I have looked at a game all year. Don't intend to. Not going to look at the Super Bowl. Not even going to look at a report on it.
Yeah, but
the distraction and the rules have gotten too protective as it is. I guess they've got too much money tied up in it.
Yeah, it just kind of suspended my belief in anything competitive anymore. I don't believe there's no such thing as competitive sports. I think all of it's rigged because the way, especially with the football. I mean, I'm just looking at, man, the Patriots. Come on, man. I mean, come on. But anyway.
The most embarrassing thing, and I actually did sort of a gag little thing on it, was the deflate gate.
Right.
Now, any bozo in high school physics knows that if you drop the temperature on an object filled up with pressurized air, the pressure is going to drop. It's predictable.
Mm-hmm.
You could fill those balls up to the minimum specification. They're totally legal. You put them outside in 40-degree weather and bring them in an hour, and they will be reading under pressure. And these buffoons went all off on that. It's like, for goodness sake, don't these morons know anything about science?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just embarrassing. I just said, oh, come on. This is just like, oh, God, gas law. Like, that's something you give a ninth grade student,
Mm-hmm.
If you get an object inflated to such and such temperature, in such and such temperature to so many pounds per square inch, and you expose to something of such and such volume to the following temperature, what can be the expected pressure? It'll be below specifications.
Right.
And they made a big to-do out of it, and it was like, good gracious, how damn stupid do you look?
Man, That's the games, man. I mean, but people like that type of
A
stuff.
bunch of low-grade morons that have no education.
Mm-hmm.
I just said, that's just so dumb. They just tore their drawers right there.
I mean, but it was like a lot of myth making and a lot of, because I had learned recently like about Ty Cobb, and I used to think that the baseball player Ty Cobb was such a bad person. Then to come to find out that they lied on Ty Cobb for whatever reason. That the guy who wrote his autobiography was, Ty Cobb did not approve of the stuff he was writing, and he was trying to get the publishers to stop it from being published. But he died in '61, and the guy came out with this stuff, and it was not true about Ty Cobb. Like it helped Ty Cobb like he's this ultimate white supremacist, when in reality he wanted black baseball players to play with the white baseball players. He said as much, and he talked about his admiration for people like Hank Aaron and Willie Mays and Roy Campanella. And he started a college scholarship program for poor black and white kids in Georgia. But yet they say he killed black people and all this other crazy stuff.
Well, basically what it was that was the sign of the times, and some people needed some mythology.
But that's what we're dealing with in this country. We love myths.
In the scheme of things, what difference did Ty Cobb make to the country? None.
Yeah, but baseball is such a highly politicized thing, though, because like you think about how crazy it is that
you know what baseball was. See, baseball is about as dull and boring as it can get. But the way it used to work, remember, there's not movies spread around like there are now. They had them. You didn't have television, and you really didn't have radio.
Right.
So what would happen is these guys would leave work, pay a nickel, go in and drink beer and talk smack with some of their friends for 3 or 4 innings and just socialize, then go home for dinner and read the results in the paper the next day. It was just something to do.
Right.
Rather than sitting at a bar when your old lady would be mad, and suffer. Temperance is going on in those days. You can go to the ballpark and drink beer and eat a hot dog, or, you can go catch a few innings for lunch. Tell the boss you're making a delivery and you go stop in and shoot the breeze with some of your friends, watch a few innings, and then go read the morning's paper to find out what happened. So it was not supposed to be this kind of long, involved entertainment, because let's face it, baseball is dull.
I like just looking at the World Series from time to time. I'm not really care for the regular season.
Well, yeah, if they give you the highlights, okay, I can stand that. But basically, it's the pitcher and the catcher throwing the ball back and forth for several hours.
I'm just saying, like, with baseball, you look at, okay, I'm talking about it's so political, because what I'm saying is, like, they talk about we can't let people in that use performance-enhancing drugs, or they used amphetamines back in the day. They were using speed and all this stuff, and I guess Babe Ruth used hot dogs and root beer, but baseball did a investigation into its origins.
Coca-Cola.
And Coca-Cola. Ty Cobb had a lot of money invested in Coca-Cola. He made a lot of money off Coca-Cola. But they found out, Baseball Hall of Fame was in Cooperstown, the hometown of Abner Doubleday, but he didn't even invent baseball, let alone played it. But they got the Baseball Hall of Fame in his hometown, but he didn't even invent baseball. And baseball knew it.
What happened is, in the Civil War, Union troops got to playing a streamlined edition of probably the most boring game in the world, cricket. And they called it rounders, and that's where baseball came from.
Exactly. But they went along with the lie of Abner Doubleday, who was at Fort Sumter, too. He was at Fort Sumter when the Civil War broke out.
He was a Union general officer, and he got the credit for organizing it.
But he never played the damn game, according to them.
No, he didn't, but it's cricket. Have you ever seen a cricket challenge cricket match? They have one continuous game that lasts 5 days.
Jesus Christ, I just can't.
I can't
do it.
I, for the life of me, like the guy gets up the bat and he hits the ball, he doesn't want to run the base. So he gets to hit over again or go sit down and it doesn't count. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, it's like, man, what the hell, man? It's insanity, man. This world is just, oh man, like you said, bread and circuses, man.
Simply not crickets, you know? Like, what the hell?
Hey, you ever look at hockey? You like hockey at all?
Hockey is interesting. I'm not a fan of hockey, but I noticed that hockey and soccer have basically the same rules. I'll tell you one game that I do like watching because it's basically nonstop action. That's rugby. You talk about all these safety rules, and these guys get out there with no helmets on or anything like that, and it's full contact football, and there are no downs. You just keep going.
So is rugby better than football? I mean, American football?
It's more interesting. I tell you,
I've never seen a rugby game. Okay, I gotta check it out.
You ought to see it. I mean, in other words, just imagine where the football down doesn't stop. They keep going, and you know, if somebody's down on the ground, they pass the ball out from the ground, and they keep running. And
wow, that sounds crazy. That sounds intense. I was thinking about it.
It doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for me, I'd say, for example, for pro basketball, they need to drop the shot clock down to 16 seconds.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
They need to drop that clock down and speed that game up because it's tiresome. You see all of these ultra high paid players and they walk or lope down the field rather than running, you know. Football's got so many tedious rules on it now. It's like, oh, what the hell? And the people don't even understand the game. You look at television and they've got these computer generated lines on the field. So, you know, baseball is just, you know, you're suffering from insomnia. You go watch a baseball game and get put to sleep.
Oh my God. Baseball, my grandfather used to follow the Cardinals and he smoked these cigars and every time I look at some baseball games, I can smell cigars the same in the room and my eyes get all watery and I want to go to sleep. But that's why I like looking at the playoffs. But I like certain players in baseball. But I just look at the politics of it. I think it's just BS how they select people for the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's for baseball. It's not for the Hall of Fame of life. No, if he was a bad person off the field and all this stuff, you shouldn't judge him by that. Judge him by what he did on the field. Same with football.
You know what gets me about baseball, the way I think of it is pitcher and the catcher toss the ball around for hours and everybody spits all over the ground.
Right. I mean, the catcher, I don't see how they could be in those positions for so long. They be there for hours.
I know.
It's crazy.
An ad for yoga.
That makes sense. I mean, you should be a good yoga. But then, like, it's like with football, like wide receivers, a lot of them take ballet dance lessons or whatever to help with their footwork. That makes sense.
There's no excuse for that. I played football a little bit in college and in high school. If you take ballet, that's got nothing to do with your ability as a ball player. That's because your mama didn't do you right.
But when we look at that, like the wide receivers are so athletic now with their footwork. They got to have both feet inside when they catch on the lines. But you don't think that comes into play, the type of knowing your body, knowing the footwork?
They've been doing that for years. So if you want to see something that's a revelation, is watch some film of pro football back in the 50s.
Okay.
You could get back up and run after you were tackled if you did so before the whistle blew.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow, that's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
And they would have triple reverses in the backfield and two passes behind the line of scrimmage before somebody threw one. A lot of razzle-dazzle. The plays they have now, you know, it's like, oh, come on. You know, like I remember looking at one, the guy was a college professor named Dan Tyler. He played for the Rams, one of the first two brothers out of the Grambling to play in the NFL. They drafted him in 1949. And he let me see, I used to date his secretary at one time. back in the early 70s. And I remember one play, the quarterback handed off to the fullback who ran over to the right side of the field, passed the ball back to the left side to the halfback. A wide receiver came around on a handoff. He gave the ball back to the fullback who threw a pass for 35 yards.
Wow. That's amazing. That's beautiful. I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, see, razzle dazzle like that, you know.
And that was in the 50s.
Reverse, yeah. See, finesse. Now everybody's in a shotgun formation and just dive to the line.
That's interesting. I never thought of football being like that. You know, you think about Red Grange and the Four Horsemen and stuff like that. You think about old football.
Those 100
Autogram.
Those were 145, 150-pound lightweights back in the day when black folk played in college football until UCLA did. UCLA started that in the late 30s. They had Jackie Robinson, the future baseball player, was halfback. Kenny Washington, first brother to play in the NFL, he was the quarterback. And because of a reaction, UCLA changed the term to tailback because the white folk didn't want a black quarterback. And they had a guy named Don Barksdale who was wide receiver who became the first brother to play in the NBA for the Lakers. So they swept, and you know,
Woody Strode too.
All the football stats then, you know, so they changed it around. You had like Dan Towler. His nickname was Deacon Dan Towler, not Deacon Jones, who was much later. And they had a guy named Tank Younger. In those days, see, they had to go both ways, defense and offense. So Dan Towler was the halfback, running back for the Rams, and he was also a defensive end. And he was like 6'5" and 260 pounds. He's the running back.
Wow.
And Tank Younger, who was 6'4", was the fullback, and he weighed 270, and he was defensive tackle too. Now, can you see tackling some monster like that?
Have to break some rules.
And Dan Towler is the one doing the triple reverse and throwing the pass.
Wow.
But, like, that was some very interesting football to watch, and I think the game was much more interesting then. And see, they didn't have all of these teams to spread all of this talent so thin.
But is it good to see LA? LA got two teams now.
What, the Rams
and the Chargers?
And I was wondering when they were going to get back in there. They had all these off-brand locations.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird for a town like LA. I mean, USC, UCLA. Why they didn't have a professional football team for years? It was kind of crazy to me. With a market like that, like a football market like that, they go. I mean, we think about the Las Vegas move though. Is that a good fit?
Well, yeah, and then Magic Johnson's got a big piece of the play with the Rams, Dodgers, and the Lakers. See?
Oh, okay. He doing his thing. I don't know, but his son is interesting. I don't know, man. But like, I don't know. He made some deals, but he's doing his thing.
Well, I know him and his wife, Cookie. His wife, Cookie, and mine used to work out together all the time.
Oh, really? And she's from Alabama. Is that correct?
I don't know. But I still, every now and then, I speak to his mother and her good friend, Randy Wade's older sister. They live up there in Lansing, Michigan. And Magic had always been a scholar. You know, he'd always been into the head thing.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. He tell you I played basketball so I could get to the point of being a businessman and have a stake in running a business.
He got his dream. I mean, he's very successful.
He and Michael Jordan.
Oh yeah, interesting characters, man. But they did. What do you think about Isaiah Thomas? What's your thoughts about him?
Don't know him.
I know him and Magic. I didn't know they had a falling out for years. They made up recently on
I
TV.
don't know all about that. That's gossip. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, Judge, do you have any closing words or thoughts you'd like to share with us on this segment? We appreciate all the things you do.
I'll make a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Don't watch any news for 5 days and see if it makes any difference in your life.
Don't watch any news for 5 days, or I guess like mainstream.
Don't watch news, any kind of news, for 5 days and see if it makes a difference. You'll find it doesn't. And after that, quit being addicted to it and go find out information. I can guarantee you that 90% of what you hear on CNN, Fox, ABC, CBS, NBC is really just lightly entertaining ignorance. And you will find that a lot of the comedy stuff is more focused on politics and in about the same degree as the news outlets. And then they've fixed on Trump so much they can't do anything original. Every joke's about Trump. Come on, get some new material.
All right. I heard that. I mean, people gonna listen to this and go. I believe there gonna be some people that gonna pick you up on your word. I look forward to hearing from the people via email and the comment section. So thank you so much, Judge Brown, for offering your time and talents to us once again. You are very much respected and loved, and the words are great to Gulton. We love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing.
You one other thing.
Yes, sir.
I do tweet. Try to be political about it.
At Judge Joe Brown TV.
Judge Joe Brown TV.
That's actually you. So everybody want to reach out to the judge and let him know how you feel about his points of views. Go on Twitter, tweet him back at Judge Joe Brown TV.
Yeah, and I'm trying to build up so I got 1,000 people following me.
So help Judge get to 1,000.
I just started about it a little less than a year ago, but it's interesting. I did notice something about that I found intriguing when I discovered it last month.
Okay.
You can go in through your Twitter account, and if you give them a credit card, they will push what you tweet for a fee so you can build up a fan base.
Just like the Russians, huh?
I found that fascinating. Like, wait a minute.
Pay to play.
You got to pay for this?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
That's what they do with Facebook. You got to pay for get advertising.
Somebody just got 109,000 followers, and what do they have? Yeah, it was Cole Ciara, was telling the ladies, and that's all they'll have. And then they'll have 68,000 people looked at that. Like, what did it say? Nothing.
Right. Like you said, it's bread and circuses, distractions.
Give them bread and circuses. In Latin, it's donne pane e circusie. Give them bread and circuses, and they will not care what you do.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, brother, good talking to you again.
Always a pleasure.
I'm kind of nihilistic today, but, it's just like, come on, man. Come up with something interesting. Go look at NASA or something. What's happening, out there in the cosmos. There's some interesting advances in physics. What's happening with hard science, technology, other than some game playing something or another to distract you from the reality of your circumstances. But anyway, everybody have a good year.
Thank you, Judge. We look forward to hearing from you again. You take care of yourself, and we look forward to breaking bread with you once more.
All right, brother. Take it easy.
Yes, sir.